Hi, Kathleen. I'm so excited for you to join the rewrite with me today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kathleen Barber is a former lawyer who traded the courtroom for becoming a writer, and we are so glad she did. Her debut thriller, Are You Sleeping, was a Reese Witherspoon's book club pick and was adapted into a hit Apple TV series, Truth Be Told, which is now also the title of the book, produced by Hello Sunshine and starring Oscar winner Octavia Spencer. Kathleen is also the author of the chilling thriller Follow Me, the heartfelt romantic comedy Both Things Are True, and upcoming Sisterhood Above All. A huge welcome, Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to see you.
So I thought we'd dive straight in. Where were you when you learned you were going to be at a Reese Witherspoon book club pick?
I was at my in-laws, I think. I at least was at my in-laws when I had the telephone call with Reese Witherspoon's team. And I just distinctly remember it because this was, gosh, it would have been in like 2016, I think. So it was before people were really having like Zoom calls. So it was a conference call. And,
Yeah.
so it's like you get on a conference call and there are like 7 voices and you recognize like maybe like 1 or 2. Like I recognize my agents and Reese Witherspoon's obviously because, she just has like a very recognizable voice.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out who else was speaking. And I just remember being in the guest bedroom at my in-laws' house, just like pacing and just feeling very, very like conspicuous on this call that I was certain that like they felt like I was certain that Reese Witherspoon's team could tell that I had no idea what I was doing. And then afterwards they would be like, well, she's clearly an amateur. But luckily that was not how it ended up.
I was going to ask, do you get to speak to Reese, or is it, I wondered if it was her team, but that's awesome that she's there on the call. And
yeah, that was the only time that I did get to speak to her, but I did on that call. And I mean, it was really kind of mind-blowing having her tell me that she personally enjoyed my book. I think I probably just like blacked out for like 30 seconds there. Like, oh my gosh, what? So.
That is incredible. And what was the experience like? And you mentioned like on that conference call, and what they're setting the stage obviously to what comes from then. So what was the sort of end-to-end experience even before it's announced and then afterwards?
Well, one of the things that we were really excited about in going with the Hello Sunshine team, because I had a couple different producers that were interested in acquiring the rights. And one of the reasons that we went the Hello Sunshine team was because at that moment in time, Hello Sunshine was just getting formed. Reese had a different company before, and they were just transitioning to Hello Sunshine. It was, kind of having like a media moment, and we're kind of like, okay, well, this will certainly help the book get made into a show, because I mean, I hate that you have to be kind of pragmatic about that. Like, part of me was like, oh, I just want to go with them because they really get my vision for the book. But you kind of also have to think about the fact that, it's nice to sell the option, but it's even nicer if the thing gets made. And so few things actually get made because, I mean, just of like the immense cost that's associated with creating film. So we were cautiously optimistic that they were going to actually be able to get something made. But because of the nature of kind of like the way that things happen in film, they really didn't want us to announce it just then. They kept being like, oh, well, like wait until we've got a writer attached, like wait until we've got some talent attached. And although I totally got it, I was just like, it was just like bursting out of me. I just like really, really wanted to be able to tell somebody. So once they finally, I can't remember exactly at what point we finally got to make the announcement, but it was incredibly, incredibly exciting. And it was incredibly exciting getting to see them add people along the way. So I think the first person that they attached was Nichelle Tramble-Spellman, who was the head writer and the showrunner, and she was just phenomenal. And so it was, and then they started getting people like Octavia Spencer, which I think blew my mind. And they had Lizzie Kaplan play Josie and Lainey, which are the twins. And
Yes.
that was amazing for me just because that was exactly how I had pictured her in my mind. I had pictured both of them in my mind. So it was really, really neat. I very much wanted to be able to tell people immediately, but we kind of like had to wait. And I'm glad that we did, because it kind of made the announcement all the better.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, you kind of get to hold on to the magic for longer as there's those milestones come. And I think you touched on something really interesting there. I'm not sure that everyone knows, or it is interesting that, you know, Reese Witherspoon's production company, Hello Sunshine, there is that correlation sometimes to book club picks. Was that something that surprised you, or you know, that you're, oh, a book club pick would be great, but oh, okay, we're going to start talking about the film and TV rights?
I'm a writer, and so I enjoy, you know, TV and movies, but books are the medium of my heart, you know. So I think I like definitely wanted to see the book get made into a show, but like my ultimate goal is to like have it reach more readers. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to see it be made into a show is because I thought that would help it reach more readers. So I was definitely excited knowing that Reese Witherspoon, who is not only an amazing player in like the film and TV space, but is, you know, kind of like a tastemaker where it comes to books as well, that her name was attached to it. I just was really excited about that.
I was reading, I finished reading Yesteryear last night
Oh,
by Caro Burke,
yeah,
and I noticed in the acknowledgements, I think you both share the same agent,
we
Lisa
do.
Groupka. I wonder, is there ever a community with the authors that an agent represents, or do you sort of, yeah, do you connect with other authors?
You know, I know that some agents definitely have clients that really connect. I have not read Yesteryear right now, but it is sitting on my desk right now, and I'm planning to
It's
start
so
it
good.
tonight. I'm
Yeah.
so excited. I I have not had an opportunity to meet Caro Burke. I don't know that I don't know if I will. But it's neat that we share the same agent. I did get to meet one of Lisa's clients at the time, this woman named Daniela Petrova, who was a delight. She was great. She wrote a book called Her Daughter's Mother that I really, really liked. And one of the fun things was that we connected because we were both clients of Lisa. And then when I was launching my second book, Follow Me, in New York, and I was looking for somebody to be in conversation with, I was able to reach out to Daniela, and she came and did the whole in conversation thing with me at a bookstore, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's really nice as well, that there's that, yeah, that community you can build, and mutually beneficial, I suppose, when you're kind of like doing those in that sort of promotion and
Yeah.
helping lift each other up.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's always so important, I think, to find the community in publishing, just because it's really hard. And so it's really nice to find other people who are there with you and who get it.
I also wanted to, or I also noticed in Kara's acknowledgements that she thanked Anne Hathaway for the conversations that they had about developing the protagonist, Natalie's character. And I wanted, as someone who has had their book adapted into a TV show, do you think we will see that closer and closer collaboration in future, or do you think these are sort of few and far between examples?
That's a really good question. You know, I feel like from what I've heard anecdotally, I mean, I don't know firsthand, but I have heard that people in Hollywood are definitely looking for books to adapt. They like kind of getting that sort of media because it already has like a baked in audience. And so I know that I have heard that people are interested in that, and that they're interested in getting more involved earlier on in the process. So it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of thing happened more often, but I don't personally know about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if, yeah, how much it will start, you know, does that become a conversation with your agent when you're thinking about your next book? And then, you know, um,
Yeah.
not as a standalone, but, you know, some authors will think about series and not
Hmm.
killing off their main character so that if it turns into a TV show that they can continue it. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see how different creative outlets may continue to influence novels from the get-go too. So
Yeah, for sure. That is.
I wondered as well. So, how much control in the adaptation process did you have? And was it as much as you wanted to have?
So I did not have much control in the adaptation. I think my contract said, meaningful consultation or something. I I was not very interested in being that involved at the time. I was working on my next book, and I had my son in 2017, which was right around I think I actually brought him home from the hospital the same day that they started production on the show.
Wow.
So yeah, it was like two projects. So I kind of I had my hands full with other things. And also I really wanted to give the show the best chance of succeeding. And to me, that meant making sure that the people who were involved in it were professionals and not me, who had never seen a television script before in my life. So at the time, I definitely wanted to take a step back. Nichelle Tramble-Spellman, who was the head writer, sent me the first script. Actually, just let me back up and say I knew going into it that they were planning to make some changes in the adaptation. If you've read my book, you know that the book is about a podcast. It's about a true crime podcast that's reinvestigating a 13-year-old murder. And the protagonist of my book is Josie, who is the daughter of the man who was murdered. And the podcast host, Poppy Parnell, is kind of like the antagonist. And I knew that in the adaptation, they wanted to take Poppy and make her the protagonist. And so
Okay.
I knew that going into it.
Which is a big change.
It is. But I kind of liked the idea that they were pitching me on was that, I mean, one, if they made the series centered around the podcast host, they would be able to spin it out into further seasons, which they did. But also I was just really intrigued by the idea that I had written this character that to me was clearly the antagonist. And other people were like, well, no, she's one of the most interesting people in the book. And it was just so interesting to me to see something that I'd created be interpreted in a way that I just hadn't expected. So I knew that going into it. And I knew once they cast Octavia Spencer that they were definitely going in a different direction, just because the character of Poppy that I wrote was in her 20s. Her motivations for starting the podcast were because she was kind of scrappy. She was kind of trying to claw her way into making a name for herself. And Octavia Spencer is obviously a more mature woman, so her motivations were going to be different. And so I knew that going into it. But they sent me the pilot script, and I got a chance to read it, and I called my agent and I was like, oh no, we have made a terrible mistake. And she was like, why? I think it's really good. And I was like, yes, that's the problem. It is a really good, and the show, I can tell, is going to be really good. And then people are going to watch the show, and they're going to read my book, and they're going to be like, this book is nothing like the show. 0 stars. I was so concerned. She talked me off that ledge. And so, yeah. So the show was very different, but it was really neat to see that they'd created something out of something that I had made.
Yeah, I love that interpretation too, where it's sort of, I know some authors can sort of really hold on to their book with clutching with dear life, but to see it evolve into something else and have it be represented in a different way, I think it is a really neat thing to experience. So and both are great, both 5 stars.
Thank you. Thanks.
You mentioned a lot of authors may sell their TV rights and then eventually nothing happens. They don't actually get made into a TV or a movie. What are the other biggest misconceptions people might have about seeing their work adapted?
I think one of the things that's probably a big misconception is that you have any control over casting at all. I'm sure that people can have different amounts of involvement in their own adaptations. I know some people negotiate to be able to actually like write the script, or I was actually going to get a sit in the writer's room for the second season, but then it was COVID and that didn't work out. So I know people can negotiate more, but I'm pretty sure that casting is one of those things that just like always remains out of your control. You know, I think there are just so many other things that go into casting. I mean, I know there are people who are professionals that are casting directors, but I'm sure there's also all sorts of stuff I can't even begin to imagine having to deal with, you know, actors and agents and everything. But, you know, I think a lot of people have kind of like these dream casts in their
Mm-hmm.
mind, which is totally fun, But yeah, I think that's probably one of them.
That's a great one because yeah, I think it also with social media now you see that all the time. People,
Yes.
not just the author but readers can have really
Yeah.
strong opinions. I saw there's a lot of strong feelings about Patrick Schwarzenegger being cast in Emily Henry's latest
Oh, wait.
adaptation.
I didn't know that. Which one?
He has been cast as Augustus Gus Everett in Beach
No.
Read. Yeah. Yes.
I also have a strong opinion about that. I mean, I like him as an actor. I really enjoyed him in White Lotus. I think he did a great job. That is not at all who I picture in my mind when I think of
Yeah.
Gus.
And I think that's the really tough things that directors or casting agents need to sort of navigate when you are adapting a book where readers, everyone is imagining something
Yeah.
and to sort of land that in a character. I think I'm excited to see like how they do it, and I trust that they're hiring the best person for the job. So I'm excited to see how they do it and
Yeah.
whether they can flip the narrative.
Yeah. No, that'll be interesting, but that's just not at all where my mental picture was.
Yeah. I to finish up on this part around adaptations, what advice would you give to authors whose dream it would be to have their novel adapted?
Yeah. Um Well, in the writing process, just make sure that you're not using too many like tricks that are going to make it hard for adaptation. My second book has a character that's called him, and you don't figure out who that is until like I don't know, almost at the climax. And I did have some conversations with people around adapting that, and they were all basically like, this would be impossible." So, um,
Ah,
whereas again, I love books, and so I would never say, you know, like write your book with like the goal of it being on the screen. It's something to be aware of that if you're, I mean, and people who write scripts are very talented, and there's probably a way around it, but it's something to think about.
that's a really good tip because there's so much readership and fan bases, and people are like, why are we not adapting this? But I think cost also is something that comes into it a lot.
Because again, there are so many costs associated with making a show or a movie just anyway. And so, yeah, when you're then suddenly having to get really involved sets and like special effects, that stuff adds up really fast. And, you know, in my uninformed opinion, could make it harder for somebody to want to take a chance on your project.
Yeah. Which I think though, I'm totally aligned with what you said on never sacrifice what you want your book to be with that thought in mind
Yeah.
because the book is the thing that is the thing.
Yes. Yeah. The book is the thing.
um I wanted to ask as well, shifting gears a little bit, so did you feel a lot of pressure after your debut novel was so successful in your follow-up novels, and how did that feel?
Um, I foolishly did not feel a lot of pressure when I wrote my second book, because
That's
I
great though.
foolishly well, I was like well, clearly I have written a book that people enjoyed, and clearly people are going to enjoy my next book. Um, and you know, it's just not the same. my first book had a lot going for it. I think even like putting aside the film adaptation and all of that, but I had written a book about a podcast about true crime podcasts in like the moment that true crime podcasts were really kind of like popping off. And so I think it was just kind of positioned really well. People were wanting to consume books about that content, and I had one available for them. Um, my second book, I think it didn't find the readers the same way. Also, it came out in the end of February 2020, which was like a terrible, terrible time. So I feel like Follow Me never quite found its audience. The people who like the book really like the book and will tell me about it, but I just feel like it didn't quite reach as many people as I was hoping. So after that, I did feel a lot of pressure. I was like, oh my gosh, like apparently this isn't like a given. Apparently having published one book does not entitle me to publish anymore. Which sounds obvious when I say it aloud, but I don't know. It just like wasn't something that I thought at the time.
No, I think it's very fair because I think anyone who's had that sort of success would be like, okay, great, this is how it works. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
I was like, I just write a book and then they'll publish it and, fine. And so I did feel a lot of pressure. So much so that it was kind of hard for me to write the next book. I felt like, my poor agent has seen so many like half drafts and like things that I've sent to her being like, what about this? And she has definitely sent to me on more than one occasion. Like it feels like you're trying too hard, just
Oh,
because I was
wow.
like,
Yeah.
I just couldn't quite find it. I ended up writing Both Things Are True in a way that felt not at all like I was trying too hard. It came very easily. And so that at least made me feel better. It felt like maybe I'd kind of like recaptured some of that like mojo that I'd lost. But I still definitely feel a lot more pressure just in general than I feel like I had at the beginning. Perhaps
Yeah,
foolishly.
no. It's kind of a nice, um, I think for me right now, where I'm pre-published and I've just signed an agent, I'm like, this might be the sweetest spot ever because there is no pressure. I'm just like, yeah. So whereas once you've put something out in the world and you have that sort of, external viewpoint, I can
Yeah.
imagine that's tricky to navigate.
See, I don't think I knew that you had signed an agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah.
I'm so thrilled for you.
Thank you. I was going to ask, so yes, after Follow Me, you did switch up genres with Both Things Are True. Can you share a little bit more about that? I really like the perspective of, getting your mojo back or taking back control and having fun.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if you felt nervous about it, but it sounds like actually that was the thing that felt freeing.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually I have to give a lot of credit to my agent Lisa here. So like I said, I'd kind of not been able to like find what my third book was going to be. And I've been working with Lisa for, 10 years now. And so she has read a lot of my works in progress, and she has read Truth Be Told before it was Truth Be Told, when it was just kind of this kind of rambling women's fiction novel that that I was just like trying to get anybody to pay any attention to. But so she reads all of my first drafts and knows that even though my projects often ended up in suspense, they didn't necessarily like, start from a place of suspense. They generally started with these stories about women and something that had happened to them. And so she was like, have you ever thought about writing a rom-com? And I was like, no, like I write suspense. And she's like, well, do me a favor and read an Emily Henry book and come back to me and tell me if you think you can write a rom-com. And at this point, I don't think I had read an Emily Henry book. I think I had them sitting on my shelf, but as you can kind of tell behind me, I have like a zillion books on my shelf, and I hadn't read any of them yet. So I read one, and I wrote her back, and I was like, no, like I can't. I was like, that was a delightful book. I don't think I can write something that's like so funny and snappy. That's just like not what I've been writing. And she was like, okay, but just like think about it. And so I did. I thought about it. And once I kind of got out of my head and stopped being like, okay, well, like people expect me to write a suspense novel. Um, I had the idea for Both Things Are True, and I just like started writing it. I was like, I don't actually have to show it to her. This could just be for me. Like maybe it's just like an experiment. But it came out of me so fast. Like the story was just like there. Um, and so I sent it to her, and I was like, "What do you think?" And she really liked it. So it was fun. I did do a lot of like hand wringing about, I've spent a lot of time trying to build relationships with other writers in the crime writing community, and the people in the crime writing community are some of my biggest supporters. Not even just like through like writing. I mean, like in my personal life too. And so I was like, I don't know, like, is it weird? Can I? And she was like, no, it's fine. Like, readers can like hold both things. Lots of people read both thrillers and rom-coms. And
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, you're right.
You've sent many half manuscripts to Lisa, and was it hard to hear that feedback when she was like, I don't think this is going to be a goer, like, or is it more, if you're willing to redevelop it, are you really that invested in it, or do you want to try something else? Like, how do those conversations go?
Yeah, usually she starts it with, well, tell me how you feel about it. And I know when she starts a conversation like that she's like trying to figure out how to reject me in a way that's going to feel nice. Because if I'm like, oh, I don't know, it's just like an idea, then she'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, it wasn't working. If I'm like, oh, well, I'm really excited about it, then she'll have to find a way to like let me down a little bit more easily. Um, but I frankly just don't get too precious about my ideas. Um, so I don't think that like I've ever had one that I was like, that she was like, oh no, that's not it. That I was like, oh no, but like, what if it is? I just don't think I've had any of them. Maybe like one. Maybe one. But then I set it aside for a few months, and then I picked it up again. I was like, oh no, she was right. This is like completely bonkers. So, I mean, I do really trust her. I mean, obviously I've been working with her for, a decade. I trust not only that she like has her pulse on the publishing market, but I also trust that like she gets my voice, and she gets the kind of stories that I can tell. Um and she's able to kind of help me figure out when something's going to be, like an asset for my voice, and when something's not really actually that good of a fit.
That makes so much sense. And I think it sounds like you found a really good coaching relationship with your
Yeah.
agent as well, which leads me also to ask about your coaching
Oh,
business that
yeah.
you created, which is obviously how we first interacted or met. And so I can say and vouch that you're an amazingly supportive and insightful book coach.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. What I wanted to know though is, you've got so much on your plate. You're a full-time writer, you have a family, you're a mom, and authors these days are expected to do so much of their own book promotion. So tell me about your thought process of adding book coaching onto that already quite full plate.
Yeah. Well, so the way that I got involved in book coaching was I had gone to a Women's Fiction Writers Association retreat a number of years ago, probably in like 2017 or something. And I saw a woman named Jenny Nash speak, and she spoke about her book Blueprint for a Book, which really just kind of like, there was like a light bulb that went off over my head when I heard her talk about it. Because up until that point, I was just a very, very messy writer. Like I still write out of order, but I mean, I would really write out of order, and everything would be a huge disaster. And her method kind of gets to kind of like cuts through all of that sort of stuff and helps you think about like not only like the what of your story, but the why, and kind of like specifically like why you in particular are telling this story. And having those ideas really helped me write my next books, helped me kind of figure out where I was going. And so I like became like a convert, and I really wanted to like share that with other people. When I, you know, when you're a writer that has any modicum of success, a lot of people like ask you, like they're like, okay, well, can you tell me about, can you give me advice on writing a book? And I would always be like, well, let me tell you about Blueprint for a Book. But obviously I didn't necessarily like, have the capacity to just always be like coaching other people without getting a little bit of remuneration for my time.
Yeah.
So I knew that I wanted to be able to work with people a little bit more deeply than just being like, okay, well, like, here's a book. And I also kind of thought about when I was starting out and I didn't know anything about what I was doing, and how much I would have enjoyed being able to hire a book coach. So I decided I wanted to follow Jenny's program, Author Accelerator, and become certified so that I could share her program with other people. But one of the nice things about book coaching is that I'm in control of the number of clients that I take. So, writing has like seasons. Like, there's a time where you're like writing your own manuscript and you like need to like focus on it completely, totally. But then there are other times where, you've got a book out on submission and you need something to distract yourself with. And so I'm able to kind of take more clients when I have those lulls in my own writing. And doing that, of course, I love helping other people, but it also kind of helps me in the sense that I feel really good helping other people. I love to see other writers get inspired and work on completing their projects and make progress on their own projects. And doing that kind of like fills my bucket as well. And so it makes me more excited to go back to my work if I've like been around somebody else who's also excited. So, I guess that's kind of like a long way of saying that I really like working with other writers. I find it really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's fulfilling, and I guess it sounds like it provides a nice contrast to when writing can often be such a solo endeavor to
Yes.
then have still writing focus, but doing that with other people in a way that, yeah, you're more in control of.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Awesome. And I guess, like you mentioned, it is a busy period for you now because Sisterhood Above All is coming out in July, I think you said.
Yes. Yes. July 14th.
I July 14, awesome. I wanted to read this quote that I love from Lane Fargo, New York Times bestselling author of The Favorites and They Never Learn. She said, Barber and Shaienne's juicy, sexy, vicious collab is like America's Next Top Model stitched with The Art of War. You'll be equally riveted by the reality TV level drama and the raw authenticity of the characters in this sure to go viral sorority rush thriller. I can't wait to read it. I would love to
Thank
hear
you.
a little bit about it from your own words too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Sisterhood Above All is a thriller set during a sorority rush. So it's set at a fictional Southern university, and it tells the story of three separate women who are involved in the rush. So there's Madison, who is the president of what she believes to be the coolest sorority on campus, and she's a bit of a gatekeeper. There's Shay, who's the president of another sorority on campus and is dedicated to kind of shaking things up. And then there's Ava, who's going through Rush as a freshman, and she is desperate to find the place where she belongs, perhaps a little too desperate. And so before the book ends, somebody is dead. So it's a little dark, but it was a lot of fun.
I really am excited. Australia doesn't have sororities, so it's just a topic I'm so curious about and hearing about rushes and things. So yeah, I really can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
Um, it's also the first time I believe that you've collaborated on a
Mhm.
novel, and I wanted to understand what was that like, and how did you decide to collaborate?
Yeah. So some of these ideas that I've pitched Lisa over the years have been about sorority thrillers over and over. And I think I'd never kind of landed on the right one. But a couple of summers ago, my agent Lisa reached out and she's like, "Have you been watching this like Rush Talk stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's wild." And she was like, "It is." She's like, "But nobody's written a book about it yet, and I think it should be you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. It should be me."
I love that.
And she was like, but to kind of draw in more readers, I think what we should do is that we should pair you up with one of these Bama Rush Talk girls. Like, how do you feel about that? And I was like, that sounds great. Um, so one of her colleagues was able to connect with Amayah, and they kind of like got us on Zoom to see if it would be a good fit. And Amayah is great. She goes to school at Alabama, but she's actually from Illinois, which is where I'm originally from. So we kind of like already had a connection, which was nice. But so we started putting our heads together to kind of think about the kind of story that we wanted to tell, and you're right. It was the first time I'd ever written with anybody. So I was really kind of nervous because writing is very solitary. And I'm used to like having my own ideas and, being in charge. But it was really easy to work with her. I think both because we both kind of had the same overarching vision. But also she was just a lot of fun. It was kind of funny though when I would work with her to go over like some details or something like this. And at one point I remember trying to like relate to her and being like, yeah, when I went through recruitment, and then I like paused and I was like, oh my God, that was before you were born. Like, never mind. Like, um, so I was in a sorority in college. I worked for my sorority after college. I was very involved in the Greek system. But obviously things are a lot different now. So she brings some authenticity that I was not going to be able to bring.
So I guess you work, you depending on who the author or the co-author or the collaborator would be, you would meet and discuss, okay, how are we going to do this? I'll go back to you with ideas, but actually write it. And that sort of, yeah, you
Yeah.
establish it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't speak to like everybody's, collaboration processes, but like, yeah, what worked for us was we had a couple meetings where we kind of like hashed out things, and then, like I'd write like an outline and share it, and we'd like discuss it further, and write this and share it and discuss further.
And how are you feeling about the upcoming launch? And has the way that you approach book launches evolved with each book?
Yeah. I am terribly nervous. I think that's true of every single time that I launch a book. I always have like the fears that people are going to hate it, that they're going to like tag me in their terrible reviews on Instagram. That hasn't happened yet, but I live in fear every time I get a tag. I'm like, like peeking through my fingers, trying to see if it's going to be bad or not. So I always worry about that. I also sometimes feel just kind of like overwhelmed because obviously when you're releasing a book into the world, you really want to give it the best chance of success. You really want other people to read it, and there are so many books that are published all the time, and so we're really competing for a very small amount of people's attention. Um, and so it can feel overwhelming to be like, okay, well, like how am I going to capture anybody's attention? And I know there's a lot of stuff about how, well, you're not trying to capture everybody's attention. You're trying to capture the attention of like your target audience and that. But still, like, how do I how do I reach them? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of like overwhelm there. I like to think that I've learned some things along the way, but I think the truth is that everything changes so fast that the things that I did when my first book came out are just like not really very relevant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's just like a lot less media that's covering books, and so much more is focused on kind of like social media outreach and influencers. Um, and so I feel like every time a new book comes out, I feel like I'm just kind of like having to start from scratch again. So, yeah, so I guess that's not like terribly uplifting. But I'm
No,
excited.
that's okay. It's the realities though, I think. And it's
Yeah.
very, yeah, thank you for being so open. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of hard work, I think, right?
It is. It is. I spend a lot of time making spreadsheets. But like I'll tell you the worst part is I know I need to, make like reels or whatever. And I can make my little spreadsheets about being like, okay, well, I'm going to make XYZ reel on such and such day. But oh my gosh, I really don't want to do it. So it's just like really, really hard to like convince myself to do that when I'm like, but I could be using that time to write my next book.
Mhm.
So it's always a push and pull.
Actually, I was chatting to an author earlier this week that said she gives herself 2 months before and 1 month after the launch to only focus on um, publicity, essentially, so that she doesn't feel that oh, I could just be writing now. So it's almost like you have
Yeah,
to have to schedule the time to give yourself a break.
I've heard that advice as well. I took a class from Lee Stein recently, and that was some of the things that she was saying that like, what you have to do is like you have to be like, well, now I'm in like content creation mode. I'm no longer in writing mode. I'm in content creation mode. But like my default is writing mode, and so it's just really, really hard for me to turn it off.
Yeah.
So especially because I don't actually like content creation. So
Yeah. I
makes
think
it
as
hard.
well for me, I love writing. When I'm writing a book, I'm also um it's an escape from all my real life problems because I'm thinking about
Yes.
my characters' problems and story and plot problems. So if you're not writing, it's hard. Like, where do you channel that anxiety?
Yes. Yes. No, I totally get that. Like I can't just be like I can't escape into another world. I have to stay here and like take care of everything in my own world.
Make another reel, make another carousel.
Yeah. Boo.
Okay, so we can move on to I have some rapid fire questions
Okay.
for you. Not all of them are actually super fast, but
Okay.
here goes. What are you reading now?
I'm reading Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. It's her YA book. But I do have Yesteryear queued up for when I finish this one.
Awesome. I'm excited to read the that one by Ali. I'm curious what the why, because she's so well known for spice, what the YA take would be. Um
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, this podcast is called The Rewrite. So if you could go back and rewrite one thing you thought you knew about becoming an author early on, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
Yeah. I feel like I kind of touched on this earlier, but I had this idea that if I were to become a published author, that I don't know, it would be all like sunshine and puppies going forward, and that I'd kind of like have it made in publishing. And that's just not true. Like, I just have to, you know, you have to, you have to keep showing up, and it's not like the work ever gets any easier. In some ways, it only gets harder. Um, so, so I mean, like, I wouldn't trade it. Like, I love writing. I am very, very lucky to be able to write. But I think I would have. I don't know. I think maybe I would have liked to know a little bit more about what I was getting myself into. I left like I was working as a lawyer, and I was working at a large law firm where the mentality is very much kind of, like up or out. Like you're either like on your way to making partner or you're like on your way out the door. And I kind of thought I was like leaving that behind, but I just feel like publishing is kind of like the same way. Like you're either like going like towards something positive or like fading to obscurity. So
No,
it's
I
just a
think
mindset.
I actually, and I have the next one was you used to be a lawyer. Are there any things you preferred about being a lawyer than a full-time writer and book coach?
Oh, one of the things that I really miss about working in a law firm is having a bunch of other people there to kind of like, puzzle something out with me. I really enjoyed being a lawyer. I guess I enjoyed the law. It was like the actual being of a lawyer and like what it meant to work in a law firm that I didn't love. But it was great that anytime I had some sort of issue or if I needed help with anything, I could just walk down the hall and somebody would be willing to sit down and like argue it out with me. Um, and when you're in a writing community, have writing friends that you can like, reach out and ask questions, but it's not really the same. Like they don't know everything about the manuscript that you're working on. Whereas when I was in the law firm, we were all working on the same case. We all had the same like knowledge. So I do kind of miss that. I mean, also it was nice just like have people to hang out with. So like otherwise it's just like me at my desk. So definitely the other people.
And then I guess to flip that, what's the best thing about what you get to do now?
I mean, I love writing. Like I can't imagine a way that I would rather spend my day. I mean, even when I was working as a lawyer, I would like sometimes like shut my door because I just like felt like I like had to write in that moment. So really like kind of the freedom to be able to dive into something that I love and to spend all day working on it and like honing it. And I was about to say perfecting it, but I feel like a book is never perfect. But just kind of like polishing it up. I find that to be very fulfilling and a real gift.
What's been one of the most surprising things you've experienced since getting published?
I'm always surprised when people have read my books.
Ah.
like, like, and I don't know why. Because I mean they're published, they're available for people. Like I see them at the library. But again, there are so many reading choices that people have, and like I read a lot of books a year, but still, it's like maybe like 60 or 70 books, which is a lot for like, most people, but still I can't even tap most of the books that I want to read. And so knowing that like somebody has spent their precious time reading my book always takes me by surprise, just always. But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful.
Such a rewarding feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like the investment in a book and someone
Yeah.
enjoying that. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, okay, which was more exciting, your debut book launch or going to its TV premiere?
Ooh, I'm both were incredibly exciting. But I think that the book launch because it was something I'd been wanting my whole life. Like I had always dreamed of being an author. When I was a little kid, I used to like not only like write my own stories, but I would make them into books with like, hardcovers, and there was like in about the author. I would like put like little awards on them, like award myself
Aw.
little awards like book of the year. So it was just something that like I had always dreamed of like seeing my book as or my story as like an actual book. And so that was really, really a dream come true. I mean, it was amazing to go to the premiere, but I think that seeing the book come out was just something that I wouldn't ever be able to top.
This one might be asking you to like choosing between your children, but do you
Okay.
have a favorite of your books so far?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to say a favorite. When people ask me which one they should read, I do recommend Truth Be Told, which is my first one. Again, probably because I spent the longest working on that one, and it's the story that feels closest to me. Although now that we're coming into Sisterhood Above All time, I'm going to start recommending that one. So.
Yes. Well, I have a soft spot for Both Things Are True as a rom-com
thank
writer
you.
myself. If you could choose two actors to star as Vanessa and Sam, even though we know that you have absolutely no control over that, but who would you choose?
So this is hard for me because I'm actually very, very bad at guessing this sort of, or at remembering who actors are. I will say that when I was writing Vanessa, I kind of had Catherine Budig in my head, and she's not like an actor, but you know who she is? She's like a yoga personality.
Yes.
And so I kind of like had her in my head. So maybe we could tempt her away to the screen. I struggle with Sam. Somebody asked me this once before, and I ended up saying Andrew Garfield, which I felt was kind of like a cheat answer because I feel like he's like everybody's like, oh, like let's cast him in a rom-com sort of thing. But he did kind of like have the vibe that I was going for.
And to finish us off, last question. For anyone considering quitting their day job to pursue writing, what is the biggest piece of advice you'd give them?
Make sure that you've got your finances straight. Just because, you know, even if all goes well and you sell your book and you know, sell film rights and everything, the income is never steady or guaranteed. So I would definitely make sure that that part is in order before you make any like large changes.
Thank you so much for your time, Kathleen. It's been so wonderful to speak to you, and thank you for sharing so many, being so open with what you've shared. It's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. No, well, thank you so much for having me.